Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I wanted to do something today, not quite walking the market like we've done several times recently, but just focusing on a couple particular products and how they seem to represent a coiled up spring of tension in the market. And what I mean by this is I see a lot of products out there, particularly magic products, where the days of supply before the price rises a lot are not very much. And, I've warned before after doing some very long term analyses that market depth analysis is squishy. It's a soft indicator, a weak indicator. And so, what I will generally tell you is that if you count a number of days of supply in the market until some particular price is reached, you might want to roughly triple that just to protect yourself if you're going to use that prediction for any type of purchase or selling or anything else. Because again, there are lots of boxes that can come to market, especially the newer the product, the more boxes are just sitting there waiting to come on the market, but aren't there yet. I do it too as a seller on TCG Player. And I'm not really here to convince you that we're about to go into a raging bull market and that it's going to be to the moon and Lambos for everyone. But I think more likely we're going to start accelerating higher at a faster pace as we get into the end of the year. So hopefully I've put enough conditional words on that to temper everybody's expectations. What I expect over the next couple of months towards the end of the year is for the market to just accelerate its upwards trend. We've been in a kind of a weak bull market for, the last 10 months maybe. And I think that's going to accelerate. And as one of my data points for why this is, I'm going to show you just some of these products. We're going to talk through them and just do some basic math on camera. So Phyrexia collector boxes. So we see the lowest one for sale here is $300 after shipping. And for this, I like to come down to the 1 month view, which changes this box and tells me 102 were sold in the last 30 days. And so that comes to about 3 per day. And I really wish TCG Player would not round this number. I wish they'd give us 1 decimal place, because rounding it to a whole number on a short time scale where you have small integers as the result is just kind of useless. Sometimes it'll round this to 0 when it's really close to a half, or similar 1.5 when it's closer to 1, things like that. So I wish they would give us a decimal place here. But when you do the math, 102 divided by 30, yeah, that's about 3. And so if we come down here and we look, here is our $300 box: 300, 312, 314, 350, 375, 400, and the market is out. And so before we hit that $400 price point with 12 boxes available, we have 8 boxes for sale. And it's selling about 3 per day over the last month. So, just doing that ratio there, we have 3 days of supply in the market before we hit $400. And if we want to be very conservative, because some more boxes will come to market as people get enticed by the price rising, maybe we have 9 days of supply before we hit $400. These just hit $300 this week. They were trading at $250 a week ago. So, this is maybe an extreme example. We'll go through some more products here and we'll see if we can find something else that maybe has this potential coiled spring aspect to such a degree as this does. So let's go to the second thing, Ravika remastered collector boxes. Of course, I did my data analysis on these when they first came out this past January, and what we saw was that sales in the first 60 days of their post-release life were about half of what Dominaria Remastered sold the year before. And at the time, I asserted that WotC probably printed way more of these than they did Dominaria Remastered, and I don't know, I don't think I believe that any longer, because the price of these has risen, and let's see how much we can maybe expect it to rise in the coming months towards the end of the year. So we'll call that $328 for the cheapest box. And we convert this over to 1 month. So in the last 30 days, it sold 60 boxes, so 2 per day. And we'll just start looking down here. So we're at 328 right now. And then after the next 3 boxes, we're at 355. So we go up nearly $30, nearly 10% jump after the next 3 boxes sell, and it's selling about 2 boxes a day. What about after that? 365, 400, 415, 500. So to 500 boxes, that's to $500 per box, we have 14 boxes in the market before we hit $500 a box. And so at 2 per day, that's 7 days. And if we multiply by 3 to add some conservatism back to it for the unknown boxes that will be brought to market, 3 weeks? 3 weeks until we go from $328 today to $500? I mean, I'd like to be an optimist and think so. And, I've inserted a lot of conservatism to say, well, maybe it'll take 3 times as long. Maybe you multiply by another 3 just to be extra careful. But man, even if it's 9 weeks, that's 2 more months. That's middle of December. By middle of December, this is a $500 box. I mean, I'd like to hope so. I've got a bunch back in the closet, but wow. So what about after that? How many more we got out there? Well, 2 more boxes after that stack of 11. Not a lot of depth in the market. Let's move on. Duskborn. All right, so the most recent release, $230. That's really good to see. It's good to see that because that's a price where a lot of card stores can come onto an expensive marketplace like this, unload a few boxes and recoup some capital, maybe make a few dollars to mitigate the risk. And if we change this to 1 month, 1,500 in the last month. Well, that includes release day, which really skews the results. So we'll do a manual count here. 13th is today. So far today it sold 8 boxes. And yesterday it sold 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 boxes yesterday. Let's just stick with 13. We won't think too hard about this. So $230, 232, 233, 234, 235, 235, 235. Lots of boxes out there at 235 and 240. Maybe we'll take 240 as an interesting number since it's 230 today. So to get to 240, yeah, we have quite a few boxes. It's moving 13 a day. That looks like 4 or 5 days of supply until we hit 240. 240 a couple weeks after release for a standard expansion collector box, that is really good. That's not quite the pent-up energy of $500 Ravnika remastered boxes before the end of the year, but it's definitely very nice for a recently released standard expansion collector box. And, maybe we'll get there in just a couple weeks. Let's call it 2 weeks. Wow. I'd say that's pretty bullish. And again, I'm not here to convince you. I'm not trying to, sarcastically say you should be coming along with me and agreeing that this is ultra bullish or anything. I'm skeptical too, but I look at the market depth, and even if you apply a factor of 3 to it for the boxes that will be lured into the market, it still looks really good. Even if you apply a factor of 9, by the end of the year, you expect that this is a $240 box. That basically means it was doing about as good as Wild of Eldraines and Lost Caverns of Ixalan collector boxes were doing last year. And, they're still doing great today. Really good to see. Not quite the grand slam that Phyrexia or Ravnica Remastered were when we looked at those, but still very nice for a very recent release of a standard expansion collector box. March of the Machine, this old dog, $225. So let's see, on the 1 month, 45 in the last 30 days. So see, that's 1.5 per day, but it rounds to 2, which is, I won't say it's deceptive, but it just kind of loses the information of that decimal point. So after 5 boxes, it jumps to 235. And then it has a 16 box block here. And after a while, there we have 235, 238, 238, 239, 247. All right. 249, 250. Let's let 250, since it's 225 today, 250 will kind of be the interesting number, That's about a 10% movement from here. So 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 32, 34, 36, 37 boxes, and it's selling 1.5 per day. So that's what? 4 weeks, 3 weeks about. 3 weeks of supply, and maybe we'll triple that. And so we'll say 9 weeks. So by the end of the year, this will move 10% more. You know, if you were in the stock market and someone said something's going to move 10% by the end of the year, you'd go ahead and open a bottle of wine with dinner tonight. So in addition to your normal bottle of wine with dinner. So even on something, an old dog like March of the Machine collector boxes with the thoroughly unloved Multiverse Legend serialized cards, we're looking at potentially 10% more movement before the end of the year. Let's go for another one. Bloomburrow, 2 standard expansions ago. This was the one before Duskborn. 235 today. How many in the last month? 190 in the last month, and if you divide that by 30, you get 6 1/3. So we'll round that down to 6 because the pace of sales will be decelerating as time goes on and as this is no longer the newest standard expansion. And so from our 235 today, 235, 239, already 240, 240, 240, 243, 245, 249, 250. So there's 250, and we're at 235 today. So, you know, a $15 movement, and how many boxes is that? 9, 11, 21, 26, 28, 37, 40, 44, 53 boxes. So 53 boxes, and it's selling about 6 per day. So 9 days from now, you could expect it to go from 235 to 250. And again, multiply it by 3 just to be careful, and you get a month. In a month, this will be a $250 box. You know, back in 2021, 2022, a $250 standard expansion collector box, we would have thought things had really turned around. And here we are. We're looking at, by the end of the year, we'll probably see $250 on this, even with very conservative analysis. And let's see, it's not just collector boxes that I see this on. I mostly like to deal in collector boxes because it's a lot of value in a very small package, and it's cheap to ship them. And so there's a lot of economy of scale with them, but I do look at and deal in other products too. Let's look at Modern Horizons 3 Play Booster boxes, and I think there's kind of a ceiling on how high this can go anytime soon. Of course, we kind of expect, like Modern Horizons 2, that this Modern Horizons 3 will be in print for around 2 years, and the original wholesale price was high 220s. And of course, we see it selling below wholesale today, so maybe too much of it in the market, or the market has decided this is just too high of a price for a straight-to-modern product. Whatever the case, it's selling below wholesale. So I think there's room for this to definitely come up as stores work through their initial orders of it that they're having to sell below wholesale. But if wholesalers hold the line and don't lower the price on the replenishment waves, then this should be expected to come up as eventually the market dries up and stores wait to buy additional boxes until they think they can sell them enough above that high 220 wholesale price to make money. So 216, and what are we selling at here on the 1 month? 167. So wow, yeah, nearly 6 per day, little over 5, little under 6 per day. And we're at 216. Here we are, 219, 235, 240. What's that? 245 already. 245 here, 248, 250. Man, 250. And how many boxes do I have to clear out of the market to get there? 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 7 more. So 29 boxes, and it's selling 6 per day. So about 5 days at the current market depth. And again, we apply a factor of 3 just to be a bit conservative. 15 days? 2 weeks? You're telling me in 2 weeks this could be a $250 box? Again, I am skeptical too, but certainly by the end of the year. Now, on this product, again, we expect this will stay in print. We expect that the market will bring more boxes to bear as replenishing from distribution becomes actually profitable. And so I think this one is going to rise, but 250, I'm a little skeptical. What would they have to sell for if it's, say it's 230 at wholesale? What would they have to sell for on these marketplaces to break even? Somewhere around 270. Yeah. So maybe we could see 250 as enough of these early boxes wear out of the market and the number of stores that want to do reorders may be pretty low. So maybe we could see 250 on this by the end of the year. I'd like to hear what you think about this. And again, I'm not trying to pound the table and say that we're going into a wild bull market run by the end of the year, or any of these boxes will achieve these exact prices or anything. But I think on a number of these boxes, the spring is coiled pretty tight and the market depth is getting pretty low, and the gaps between boxes are getting pretty large. And so I think it's pretty likely that in general, we will see some pretty healthy market movement upwards before the end of the year. Something interesting that kind of begs is if Ravika Remastered goes to $350 and Phyrexia goes to $500, let's just say those things happen. What happens to stuff like Crimson Vow collectors and Midnight Hunt collectors and AFR collectors and Streets collectors and Kaldheim collectors and all those unloved boxes? At some point, just the value in those boxes from opening them and getting foil cards, even though there are not chase cards in most of those sets, just the value of the fun of opening them may be enough to start moving those prices upwards a little faster. I don't know what that runway looks like. That may take many more months. Maybe we'll be here next June saying how I had discussed this last October and finally it's happening. But certainly when the alternatives, when the substitutes start to move up in price, those laggards will have to start catching up. At some point, they will be pulled along, maybe gently, because they are pretty bad products. But at some point, they will have their day. It's just a matter of when you would try putting your money into it and trying to grab up some of those before the price rises quickly. I'm going to think a lot more about that and discuss it with some people. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you have any other interesting examples of this, or any ideas you're having for why the market's going to be a sky is falling bear market by the end of the year, let me know those too. I always appreciate that. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.